Welcome to a new Team CGC 9.8 video. So hopefully this will be kind of the last Ultimate Fallout 4 video for quite a while, but I had been watching some other YouTube videos out there on Ultimate Fallout 4, and I just noticed like there hasn't been sort of a full analysis on sort of just why Ultimate Fallout 4 CGC 9.8 has exploded in price so much, and want to talk about the CGC 9.8 specifically too. But I did boil it down into the video here into 3 reasons, and I think, the first reason is kind of obvious and maybe it has been covered on some channels, but I think the second and the third reason are a little more subtle and maybe not so obvious, and we'll get into some of the details. But I think when you fully understand what's going on with Ultimate Fallout 4 right now, I think you'll get a better idea of, is the price sustainable? I think that's the first thing. And the second thing is you can maybe gain some tips and sort of maybe identify some other books that have that Ultimate Fallout 4 potential, like once you can fully understand sort of the situation. So we'll get into the 3 reasons, but really quick, I do have a copy of Ultimate Fallout 4 in the CGC 9.8. Picked it up about 8 months ago it was now. Yeah, I think it was like late November of last year, or in November of last year kind of thing. Yeah, I thought it was sort of a little bit I thought it was this year, to be honest. But yeah, it was last year in November. Picked one up. So on the census, there's a 1,732 CGC 9.8s in the blue label. So this kind of a one of 1,732. So it's such a popular character, so you're never going to see like a low number with that because it is one of the most popular modern characters. First appearance of Miles Morales, Spider-Man. This is the first print version. And 32.4% is the CGC 9.8 ratio. So yeah, pretty low for a modern book, which we've talked about. So prices, then we'll get into those 3 reasons for sure. Just to do a quick analysis here. Like the latest prices on this thing is 1,400, 1,500-ish in the CGC 9.8. Yeah, they're just, that sort of, I think that PS5 announcement really sort of added another level to, where it had sort of been around 1,000 to 1,100 for like a week or 2. And then that sort of PS5 announcement. Now, yeah, most of these completed listings around 1,400, 1,500. So let's get into those reasons of why Ultimate Fallout 4 and the CGC 9.8 has exploded so much. And you can kind of lump in there Ultimate Fallout 4 and the Raw and the second prints, and because all of them have done so well, and even that really rare variant for sure. But so first reason here is the one that's pretty obvious, I think, is the promotion for Miles Morales and, the new Spider-Man. So there's the Spider-Verse 2 movie that's definitely like in production, coming out imminently kind of thing. But there's also like a lot of chatter about a live-action Miles Morales movie, which I have mentioned in my videos in the past as sort of a reason for wanting this book, because eventually it's going to happen. I mean, there's like countless Peter Parker ones now. So a Miles Morales Spider-Man live-action movie will happen in the next 10 or 20 years. Like, you don't know when, but... So that, and then that PS5 game, yeah, I mentioned, has sort of added that next level, I thought. And it's looking pretty cool, and PS5 itself is looking pretty cool, to be honest. So those obvious promotions are garnering more demand for this book. So that's the first reason. So second reason is I think there's been a realization, I think, by sort of the comic book community and even like pop culture in general, that there is now like a full acceptance of Miles Morales as like the new Spider-Man. Like he's really, it's on the same level now as like Peter Parker, I would say. Because, initially I think you can make the argument that, oh, well, there's been like Scarlet Spider and all these different Spider-Mans that have sort of been versions of Peter Parker Spider-Man that have come along and hadn't done really so well. So that was kind of, I think, the negative case against this book was, like the community might just forget about Miles Morales in 5 or 10 years because, it could be similar to some of those older Spider-Mans. I never really took that position, but I think the realization now and the flood of demand that's come from this book is that everyone in pop culture now, and maybe some people in the comic community already realized it, but have fully accepted Miles Morales as like the new Spider-Man. And they fully accepted these sort of multiverse story arcs that will probably go on for a really long time. So yeah, I think it's Spider-Man itself is such an iconic character. I mean, Amazing Fantasy 15 is kind of the 1960s book to have had in the last 20 years. Like, that's basically done the best out of all those books. And first appearance of Spider-Man is Amazing Fantasy 15. So, you know, there was some reason to think that it could happen with this book because it is sort of the new Spider-Man, and I think that realization now that everyone has accepted Miles Morales as the new Spider-Man is sort of putting this book into, well, okay, he's the new Spider-Man, so he, you know, it's got to be at the top of the barrel because Spider-Man is extremely popular, so relatable for like so many kids and collectors, and yeah, and that, like, there's 1,732 of these. That kind of shows how popular it is. It's definitely not like a limited book like that because there's just so many Miles Morales fans. But yeah, the second reason is, you know, the iconic appearance of Superman in the modern age, or Spider-Man in the modern age has been, you know, and as the Miles Morales Spider-Man has been completely accepted, I think, and that's been sort of a driver behind this price going up. So the third reason here is the Rarity and the CGC 9.8. Yeah, this book compares really well to a lot of other really expensive books in the CGC 9.8. So the way you want to do that is you want to look at that CGC 9.8 ratio. 32.4% of all graded copies are CGC 9.8s of Ultimate Fallout 4. So the book that's really set the standard for modern books in the last couple of years, modern Marvel books, I would say, in the last 5-10 years, let's call it, is a NYX number 3. Yeah, the first X-23, kind of the Lady Wolverine. And that book had, you know, I've been used to that going for my last sort of 3 years of really collecting 9.8s. Kind of $850 was a really good deal on it. They've sort of lulled at one point to a little bit lower than that, but I think $8 to $850 is kind of a good deal on that book. That was always the top sort of modern book in the CGC 9.8, whereas, you know, I purchased this in November last year, I mentioned, for $354 it was. So obviously this book has come such a long way. And I think when you look at it, NYX number 3, that CGC 9.8 ratio is around 41-ish%, I think it was. So this one at 32.4% is pretty, like, way more rare than X23 and than NYX number 3 in the CGC 9.8. It's, yeah, really low for a modern book. So when you see X23, NYX number 3 being so expensive, which it was for this book for years and years, to me that just didn't make sense with this one more rare and the iconic first appearance of Spider-Man, like a lot of those other reasons. So now, you know, the price right now is $1,400. I mentioned $1,500 for this book in the last couple weeks here. So certainly that sort of imbalance in the prices of those books has been sort of balanced out. But with NYX number 3 going for $800 to $850, this one being a little bit more rare, you know, maybe this book could settle around like $1,100-ish. Whereas right now, yeah, $1,400, $1,500. I think it is kind of a bubble type of a phase right now where the hype is just so high. So, yeah, I would like to think that, you know, a better price for this book would be around that $1,100 and maybe some lulls before the Spider-Verse 2 movie. It's going to be tough, though, with such a, you know, a popular character like Spider-Man to, it's going to, you know, I don't really know what's going to happen. But that was the third reason there. This compares really well to other really expensive modern books in the 9.8, and for that reason I always thought it was undervalued. And it kind of makes sense for it to be about $1,000 with an NYX number 3 being about $800. That kind of makes sense to me, so maybe that is a long-term price. But those 3 reasons, I will put them in the list in the description below. They were, the promotion was the first reason, the movies and the chatter and the PS5 game. The second reason is such an iconic hero, Spider-Man. Now it's fully accepted, Miles Morales Spider-Man. And the third reason, that 9.8 rarity, it's just more rare than a lot of these really expensive modern books in the CGC 9.8. So it makes sense that it's pretty much at the top of the barrel now, given that it is Miles Morales, the new Spider-Man. Top of the barrel of the Marvel books, I guess, but it is kind of neck and neck with Batman Beyond number 1 here. But, so concluding up here, you know, I mentioned in the intro there, like, if you fully understand the situation, you can get a better idea of if the price is sustainable. So, you know, do I think the price is sustainable at $1,400, $1,500? I don't think so. I think we're in a hype phase right now. That's kind of peak hype almost. And which is why I'm kind of making these videos, because the search terms for Ultimate Fallout 4 are probably a lot better, so it's better for the exposure of the channel kind of thing. But yes, the price sustainability of Ultimate Fallout 4, I think, as I said, it could settle around 1,000 would make sense to me. Right around that 1,000 area, maybe you get it under 1,000 on a deal, a little over 1,000 if you want it now. And that makes sense in a world of NYX number 3 being a little bit less rare than 9.8, and that book's like 800s, 750 to 800, let's call it. So price sustainability, I would say at this price, no. Yeah, you want to wait for maybe, closer to 1,000. I think closer to 1,500 right now is a little bit sort of a marker of this kind of bubble phase, I think. And the other thing I mentioned is maybe you can identify some other books that, by understanding the situation here, you can identify some other books that might be undervalued. And the one that really sticks out to me, and you definitely want to watch our last video because I kind of highlighted 3 basically that I like, but one of them is Guardians of the Galaxy number 1, sort of the origin and the second appearance of the new team Guardians of the Galaxy, but it's kind of like the first full appearance because so many people join in it, and it's Guardians of the Galaxy number 1 from 2008 in the CGC 9.8. That 9.8 ratio is 23%, let's call it, I forgot the exact, but 23%, even more rare than Ultimate Fallout 4, like quite a lot more rare than Ultimate Fallout 4 at a 32.4% for this one. It's 24% for Guardians of the Galaxy number 1. A modern book, so these are really rare CGC 9.8s for books coming out after 2000, yeah. So Guardians, with that big first appearance of a great new team of superheroes with a lot of potential, and Guardians of the Galaxy in the CGC 9.8 sort of going around 200 to 250. A lot of people telling me out there it's hard to get that for under 300, so, let's call it kind of under 200 a great deal, but Guardians of the Galaxy number 1 from 2008 in the CGC 9.8. Go to like 200 to 300 if you really want it, is what I'm kind of hearing from the team. It's really kind of a tough one to get, but it's so rare in the CGC 9.8 for a modern book with that low 9.8 ratio. And at that price, I mean, it's rarer than Ultimate Fallout 4, which is obviously over $1,000 now, with this one being around $200, but being more rare with a really good key issue first appearance and origin. That's why I really like Guardians of the Galaxy number 1, and definitely check out that video. I'll put a link in the description below for the video that we had just done about 3 CGC 9.8 comic books that could become the next Ultimate Fallout 4. So, but yeah, you know what? I think one of the things to just say though is I really do not know what's going to happen with these prices. Like, I made a very similar sounding video to this when Ultimate Fallout 4 was at $700. So even then I was like, maybe you want to be patient and this and that. But if you jumped in there, you probably are feeling pretty good for getting it about $700. So, hey, I mean, it's double that now. So it's a bit of a different time. I think now you actually really do want to be patient. And like I said, given the NYX number 3 CGC 9.8 prices, I think this one can be 100 or 200 or 300 bucks more than that. And then that's going to be its kind of max out for now. But Guardians of the Galaxy number 1, more rare than NYX number 3 in 9.8, more rare than Ultimate Fallout 4 in 9.8, more rare than the Ultimate Fallout 4 variant in the 9.8, which is like $3,000 or $4,000 or $5,000 now. Like, some people are paying stupid money for that. So I should have brought out my Guardians of the Galaxy number 1, but you'll just have to check out that other video, I guess, where I do bring it out and everything, because I got 2 of them. Yeah, I just like it so much I wanted to get 2 in the CGC 9.8 with that low 9.8 ratio. So yeah, bottom line, I don't really know what's going to happen with the Ultimate Fallout 4 price, but my feeling is it's going to settle in just a little bit over that NYX number 3 price, and hopefully get it closer to $1,000 rather than closer to $1,500 where it's been now for the kind of the last week or 2. Okay, yeah, glad to make a video here and just kind of sum up my thoughts on Ultimate Fallout 4, and yeah, hopefully we don't have to make too many more videos on it. And I know Batman Beyond number 1 is just as hot, and that's kind of the hottest DC book going right now. Modern DC book, this being the hottest Marvel book. And yeah, that Batman Beyond book, maybe it's worth its own video, but there's no too many announcements that I'm aware of. It's just, that realization that, like, Batman Beyond is the new Batman, pretty much. And that sort of acceptance that has happened with Miles Morales is happening with Batman Beyond, as, if you want the first appearance of the new Batman, it's pretty much Batman Beyond number 1 now. So, two, yeah, really hot books, but right now they're just so hot you probably want to be patient on them. But yeah, glad to go through the 3 reasons just to, fully understand it. That it's really that, it compared so well to NYX number 3 that I always thought the price could be over that, and that's kind of what's happening now. So it does make sense in a way. That's why, I don't think this is going to plummet back down to like $400 again. Yeah, I don't think that's going to ever happen with Ultimate Fallout 4. I think it'll always be over NYX number 3, CGC 9.8 in price, is my opinion anyway. Okay, thanks so much for watching today. If you haven't already, I invite you to join the team and subscribe to Team CGC 9.8 and hit the bell to get all the latest notifications. Add me on Instagram and Twitter as well. Thanks again for watching, and yeah, I think we're due for a pricing video, and certainly we'll definitely talk about some of these hotter books, but yeah, stay tuned. Thanks so much for the support. Message me on Instagram if you would like to talk or have any questions. Alrighty, yeah, we'll see you on the next one. Thanks so much for watching. Take care.